No. Man, I gotta go back in here and change all of this stuff. Hmm. Oh yeah, I almost forgot that I had already hit the record button. So I'll have to crop out some of that when I get ready to upload uh this as an actual episode. But I had recorded uh 2 3 weeks ago a Jurassic World Dominion review, but I didn't like the recording that I made. Um, so I decided to do another one. And so that's what I'm doing with this here. But this time I decided to live stream it so that I don't have to worry about writing a script or anything like that. As a matter of fact, over here somewhere on one of these shelves, probably have a script pre-made for how I deal with movie reviews in general. But being that I'm a big Jurassic Park fan, dinosaurs is my thing. It's what I went to school for. It's everything uh about me is my love for dinosaurs. Love dinosaurs. Absolutely love them. They are everything to me. I gotta fix my green screen behind me. I gotta get a better green screen eventually, but this one works. If I have the green screen on, and you'll be able to see my arms and stuff. But if I take the green screen away, I disappear. See, I disappear when my hand's not in the green screen. When I have the green screen right there, but but watch this. If if I were to take the green screen and I were to actually say that I was using the green screen, like for instance, I'm not using the green screen for this right now. But if I was using the green screen for this, uh, this is what would happen. It gets slapped and pasted right there on the screen. So I don't use the green screen, but I do use it. I use it because it makes me not completely disappear when I'm doing all my animations and stuff. You know, one of those things. Huh. Oh, would you look at that? Zoom has something that's new. They have avatars now. That's interesting. Let's test out one of these avatars. Uh, you know what? Because I'm doing all this stuff in the beginning, I'll have to crop out a lot of this stuff. But let's test some of this. So let's be a cow with a hoodie. Yeah, so I get to be a cow with a hoodie. Isn't that wonderful? What microphone am I using, by the way? Okay, I'm using the right one. I didn't even test my microphone to see if my volume was right. I assume it's right. You know, I can test to see if it's right. Uh, all I got to do is go to Facebook and listen to myself and see if it's right. Let's see. Where's my Facebook? Let's see. It's right. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So Facebook, I can hear myself on Facebook, so it's right. See. Okay, yeah. So Facebook, I can hear myself on Facebook, so it's right. Okay, yeah. Facebook, I can hear my. Okay, so uh, ah, this little avatar is really funny, very funny. I think we turned it off. I wonder if you could make more of those. I said to use this little green screen, this white space here because I got all these books on my bookshelf, and normally that would be a wonderful view, But since I got the green screen up, it doesn't make sense to have the bookshelf be shown if the green screen's in the way. So let's talk about Jurassic World Dominion. What are my thoughts? Um, First things first. What do I give it as a score? Uh, 6.5 out of 10. I think that's fair to place it. Um, I place it as the fourth uh, best one in the series, barely ahead of Jurassic Park 3. The only reason why Jurassic Park 3 is lower is because it's shorter. And because of the talking raptor. The worst one in the series, I give it a 2 out of 10. That's Fallen Kingdom. Jurassic Park 3, I give it a 5 out of 10. But why do I give Jurassic World Dominion a 6.5 out of 10, not a 7? I was thinking about giving it a 7, but as I thought about it a little bit more, it doesn't really merit a 7 because the issues that it does well, it does not do well enough. So, starting off, let's go over. I want to try not to spoil it. I've watched the movie 3 times, and I delayed my initial recordings of of this because I wanted to avoid making spoilers for friends of mine that uh, have not yet seen the movie, but now that I've watched it with them, you know, now uh, I don't really care too much about that. And people who have uh, have watched uh, the pod uh, the podcast, and you guys, if you see the title of this episode, you know that there's going to be spoilers involved. So don't listen to it. Don't listen to it if you don't want to be spoiled. So I'll start with the plot. There are a lot of issues with the plot of Jurassic World Dominion. The biggest issue for me is there's no cohesion that brings the various plot points together. We have the plot about the about the locust spread, and they were going around. It's going to devastate the food chain. Love the idea, hate the execution. You see, the idea is great because it opens up the idea of what happens in Jurassic Park 1 when Ian Malcolm says that genetic power is the most awesome force the world's ever seen, but yet you use it like a man who's like a boy who's found his dad's gun, and you still the shortage of geniuses to accomplish something as fast as you could, and never even stop to uh, never even thought to think of whether or not you should. And so I love the idea. I love the premise of it because not only does it introduce us to things, because we get introduced to animals that aren't actually dinosaurs. We all know about the pteranodons. They're not actually dinosaurs, they're flying reptiles. Still, I would classify pteranodon as a dinosaur, even though the rest of the paleontological community does not. I fail to see a difference in separating them when we have bats as flying mammals, which why not have flying dinosaurs? Doesn't make any sense to separate the classes for me. To me, we don't separate bats from the rest of the mammalian species. And considering that there are no live dinosaurs, um, to make the comparison between their blood and how they were designed, I cannot make the jump that others do when it comes to uh, pterosaurs not being actual dinosaurs. Even their bone structure is almost identical to the way bats are designed, with the elongated forefinger and the membrane. Uh, but one of the dinosaurs you get introduced to is Dimetrodon, which is a synapsid. It predates the dinosaurs. Not a real dinosaur. It's actually closer related to a lizard. Uh, you could probably toss it in the same category as Megalania, which came after the dinosaurs. Um, but the point that I'm trying to get across is the idea. A lot of people get flack like, why are we talking about locusts in the dinosaur movie? See, this is the problem. Jurassic Park is not a dinosaur movie. It never was a dinosaur movie. It never was a dinosaur book. It was a book about genetic engineering, particularly of animals that have been extinct since uh, dinosaurs. But megafauna, such as uh, dinosaurs, insects, arthropods, which are insects, and other things, fish, uh, um, marine reptiles, which I don't see distinction between a marine reptile versus a dinosaur when we do know that these animals were warm-blooded and breathed air, uh, kind of, you know, like mammals. When we know that dinosaurs are warm-blooded, but I'm not going to get into that. But these particular species of megafauna existed at the same time as did dinosaurs. So the fact that we have pteranodons, the fact that we have mosasaurs, the fact that we have dimetrodons in here, nobody seems to have a problem with that. But when you have these giant insects, they're like, oh, this is not addressable. No, giant megafauna of insects is just as much Jurassic Park as are the tyrannosaur. Uh, we had, we had megafauna that was that predated dinosaurs. Dinosaurs actually, according to the theory of evolution, evolved divergent with the other with early reptiles to deal with the mega fauna of giant arthropods. That was the original diet of these animals, minus the herbivores, obviously, was the giant insects. So I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is how it's used. We get introduced to it, we still talk about it throughout the course of the movie, but there's no sense of danger. There's no sense of impending doom of urgency We see one crop get devastated. We see no other crops in the entire movie devastated. We see no other locust plagues anywhere else. Only this particular locust plague could happen in Texas or Arizona, wherever it was. We don't see anything else from these locusts other than at the climax of the movie when they're swirling around on fire, which made no sense how they got out. The the glass should not have been able to be penetrated. The ventilation system should not have been able to be penetrated. It makes no sense how that happened at the end of the movie, but I'm not going to go into that part of it. Uh, the other plot that we have here is the clone issue, which in theory works again if you're talking about the genetic engineering, the idea of being able to use it for genetic uh, cures and things of that nature. But the problem is that you cannot just retcon a character into the history of Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is based off of the book written by Michael Crichton. Characters like basically like Lockwood does not exist in that, and you can't just drop them into the story out of nowhere and expect it to work, and then plop this supposedly brilliant scientist who just happens to be a woman because they needed to have a strong female character that isn't Laura Dern or Claire, and put them into uh, the story somehow. So you retcon it all the way back to the original Jurassic Park. It makes no sense at all to try to retcon things to the original Jurassic Park. The original Jurassic Park, it is blueprinted on the work of Michael Crichton with very few revisions. Uh, but in the context of what they were trying to tell in the last movie, which was horrible, which is what made this part of the plot horrible for this movie, it works. So if you're watching it as a sequel to the last movie, it works. But that's about it. The plot doesn't really go anywhere else from there. Uh, then we have the kidnapping of Blue's baby and Maisie Lockwood. Now, the movie would have been no different if Blue was not in the movie at all, because the raptor plays no part in the movie. The baby plays no part in the movie. We see it get kidnapped, and we never see anything from it again until the last, literally the last 10 minutes of the movie. They talk. Dr. Henry Wu uh, talks about needing to have Blue to understand Maisie so that they could make the cure. Never happens in the movie. He never even studies the raptor. So there was never a reason to get the raptor if they got the girl. The way that the raptor bred was is not even remotely close to what happened in the context of genetic experimentation that created Maisie, because the raptor was created using monitor lizard DNA, and monitor lizards can asexually reproduce. Well, Maisie was not created in that same manner. She was done so with artificial insemination via DNA replication into some form that they did not get into of how they actually managed to cause a female to asexually reproduce. They didn't talk about how it happened at all, and that and then Maisie's mother had a blood disease or some type of incurable disease, and they um, and she altered the DNA of Maisie in order to allow her to not have the same disease. Has nothing to do with monitor lizards or asexual reproduction. Has nothing to do with it at all. So that plot point does not make any sense. It shouldn't exist in the movie at all. And I failed to uh to understand why they put it in there, because again, like I said, it doesn't make any real sense. It doesn't have any real meaning or any real need or necessity for it. Another part of the plot that we have is a biosyn. There's a huge cover up, so they're trying to do a media takedown of biosyn, and obviously because they wanted to, kind of target a lot of the stuff that was happening politically here and here, and they're trying to tie it into global warming and global devastation, all that stuff. They're making a whole bunch of politics in the movie that made no sense, especially on a movie that's supposed to be based off of science that happened in the Jurassic era. And really the Cretaceous, because most of the animals in the movie are Cretaceous, but in the Jurassic period and the Mesozoic area in general, when the climate was significantly hotter than it is today and had significantly more oxygen than it is today, and then to try to compare that to today's modern climate, uh, it failed miserably in doing that. But I suppose the biggest problem with this movie, other than how the plots don't meet for the characters to actually come together, uh, is the biggest issue is there is no sense of urgency. There's no sense of danger in this movie. At no point at all during this movie did you ever feel that there was any danger for the main cast of the movie. Never once. I mean, Owen walk goes up to the Dilophosaurus and grabs it by the jaw, and the dinosaur runs away. Even though there were several Dilophosaurus there, they didn't decide to come and attack them as a pack, as a group, which they later did to Dotson, and how Dotson died, which that is a stupid death all on its own, because there's there's nothing in there to explain why the Dilophosaurus are even able to enter into the monorail. Dr. Alan Grant and the others were in the same monorail earlier, and there were no dinosaurs in the monorail. So how the Dilophosaurus got there makes no sense at all. How they just busted through the window, and then Michael Myers, four other ones inside there. How they got in there, it doesn't make any sense. Um, but the issue is that, again, like I said, there's no sense of danger that happens there when Owen can grab a dinosaur by the face and make it run away. A Dilophosaurus, which, mind you, is undersized in Jurassic Park, but in reality is about 20 to 25 feet in length, stands about human height, and is about 1,500 pounds. And you're going to tell me that Owen can manhandle a 1,500-pound dinosaur? That I no, it's not happening. Um, Dr. Alan Grant is another one. They're in him and Laura Dern and Macy. They're fleeing the Dimetrodons. You only get to see the Dimetrodon like really once or twice, and then while they're fleeing the Dimetrodon, you never see the actual creature again. You see them pushing a mine cart, and apparently they've been pushed into the into the wall, but there's nothing on the other side of the mine cart. You never see the Dimetrodon again. You see them fighting with a mine cart. And so, because you never get to see the creature again, there's no sense of danger. Alan Grant falls off a ladder. He's 60, over 63 years old. He falls off a ladder, lands on his back, and is able to get up and outrun multiple Dimetrodons and save his hat at the same time. Makes no sense. No danger. Um, the most danger that we that is actually in the movie is when Alan Grant and Ellie are trying to get the sample from the locust, and they're in there, and the alarm goes off, and the locusts start swarming, and they start attacking, uh, and they start attacking. Real locusts wouldn't actually attack something that size, but um, that the real danger comes from the fact that they were in there, their masks are off, there's the poison gas, or the or or is it cold air? I don't know what it is, but some type of gas that's blasting off, and that is the real danger where you think that they might suffocate, but then somehow they manage to meet Maisie as soon as they break out of that cell. Makes how they bumped into each other, how Macy knows who Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler are, when she was not even born anywhere close to being born when Dr. Alan Grant and Ellie were in the first movie, but she just knows who they are. When the only one that's actually said anything about Jurassic Park uh, has been Ian Malcolm, Dr. Grant established in 2001's movie that he does not talk about Jurassic Park. Ellie doesn't talk about Jurassic Park. She's been a family woman, and the fact that they had her divorce and just so that they get back together 30 years later. We never did get that kiss in the first movie, so 30 years later, it's nice to see that closure. But it was a real waste of Sam Neill. He's my favorite, but he really had nothing to do. The movie would have been completely the same if Sam Neill was not in it. I hate to say it because I love Sam Neill, I love Alan Grant, but the casting of it is flawless. But the plot and the necessity to have him in the movie, there's nothing plot driven for him to be in the movie at all. And the fact that they made him a scientist be so dumbed down when it comes to technology is a bastardization of his character. They wanted to say, well, he likes to stick to the old school stuff. True, paleontologists, we love to dig in the dirt. That's fun, but we use modern science to help us understand, computers and computer generated images, to help us understand some of these things, because we are unable to get full skeletons most of the time. So we use computer generated images to do that stuff. So the fact that they would say that the leading paleontologist, according to the Jurassic Park lore, Alan Grant, is unable to use technology is baffling to me. And so they really make the character seem like nothing. Uh, Ian Malcolm, again, the movie, he did really good, but towards the end of the movie, he had no real reason to be in the end of the movie. The middle portion when he's helping out Maisie and not Maisie, Ellie, really good. But I mean, Ramsey, since he's the one that told Malcolm all this stuff in the first place, Ramsey could have did it, and Malcolm didn't even need to be in the movie because it takes away from the character Ramsey uh, by having everything be done by Malcolm. So the plot makes the character placement wasteful, and then you have issues with some of the things that go unexplained. I assume you might get some explanations in the extended cut about Therizinosaurus. Why why is it blind? Why can't it see Claire? Uh, you look at it, you have to watch it a couple times. You look at it, see the eyes are milky, glossed over, which is an indication of blindness. So we know that it's blind, but there's no indication of why it's blind. There's no indication of any of that. And despite the fact that we just saw it kill a deer, it never felt like Clara was in any danger of getting killed. Despite the fact that the Therizinosaurus was literally on top of Claire before she got in the water to begin with, yet still couldn't find her. But it could find a deer, and the deer wasn't making that much noise at all, not comparative to the noise that Claire made. The crash of the airplane, how they survived with no damage, not even a broken arm. They get out like they're superheroes. No, really, there's no sense, nonsensical stuff. There's no sense of danger, no sense of importance in this movie. But it's a fun movie to watch. We have some pretty cool scenes with some pretty cool looking dinos uh, that happened in in Africa, not Africa, in the Middle East. But before I talk about that, I'll talk about another part of the plot that doesn't make sense. The beginning of the movie, when they're breaking in to rescue the dinosaurs from this breeding camp, makes no sense because it literally doesn't get mentioned in the movie except for one other time. And there's literally no reason to have that be in there. There's literally no reason for Claire to be breaking the law trying to rescue dinosaurs. There was nothing established about that. Especially if there's already a government agency that's supposed to be doing that, according to the movie. We get introduced to characters just to make like cameos. I mean, Dotson hardly shows up in the movie. He's supposed to be the big bad, but he hardly shows up. He doesn't seem like a villain. There's no reason for him to die in the movie. He didn't do anything in particularly that was bad. Sure, he he's he stopped them. He kidnapped the kid, but he did that to try to stop a plague. They weren't trying to kill the girl. Um, but you could say that okay, he's the villain. He has to die at the end of the movie, but it doesn't establish anything for it to get to that level. Um, another issue that I have with the movie, and I'm getting all the issues out of the way before I talk about the positives. Because again, I do think it's an enjoyable movie. But the other issue that I have with it is the, the scaling of the dinosaurs is abysmal. The Mosasaurus just keeps getting bigger and bigger in every movie. At one point, they have it sitting next to whales, humpback whales at that, and the Mosasaurus dwarfs them. The Mosasaurus looks bigger than a blue whale, and then I actually watched a YouTuber's comparison to the size of the mosasaur in this Jurassic World movie, and compared it to the mosasaur in real life. And according to their models, they found that this mosasaur is 1.5 times larger than a blue whale. Well, mosasaurs at maximum, got to about 45 feet, and that's the giant mosasaur. No mosasaur has ever been the length of a toothed whale. You might say, well, maybe a beluga, but no mosasaurs ever come close to being anywhere near sperm whale in length, anywhere near the size of a humpback whale. As a matter of fact, most mosasaurs were in the weight range of of an orca and was about the length of a common school bus. That's the length of most mosasaurs, and the weight of most mosasaurs about the weight of a killer whale, which is a dolphin, mind you, not a toothed whale. But this thing is so big that it capsizes a ship. Eating crabs, which makes no sense at all, because no animal that size is going to feast on something that small when it has teeth. If this was a baleen whale, it would be different. Baleen whales and animals that have very small teeth, uh, like octopus, have been known to eat on crabs and small animals. But this is a predator, an apex predator. You don't find sharks hunting down crabs, not large species of sharks hunting down crabs. You find family members of sharks that do it, like rays. Rays are part of the shark family. They hunt down crabs, but they're much smaller. They have a much smaller stomach, a much smaller mouth, smaller teeth, and it's positioned differently. No, a shark is going to go after something that is of substance. It's going to go eat something that is huge, and we don't get that here at the mosasaur. The Giganotosaurus at the end of the movie. One of the biggest issues that they keep saying is the largest predator ever found. No, it's not the largest predator ever found on land. You know, Spinosaurus was already part of the movie franchise, and now Spinosaurus may be a piscivore, which means that it eats fish, but it was still a partially terrestrial predator, and was longer in terms of length than Giganotosaurus ever will be. Giganotosaurus, on average, was only about 1 to 2 feet larger than a Tyrannosaur and weighed less than a Tyrannosaur. So while they are technically about a foot or two taller and a foot or two longer, they weigh significantly less and are significantly less powerful than a Tyrannosaur. So to have this Giganotosaurus be uh, as big as it is ridiculous. It seems like whomever directed this movie or brought inspiration to this movie played too much Ark Survival Evolved, because the Giganotosaurus and the Therizinosaurus and the Pyroraptor and almost every other dinosaur that they introduced in this movie is almost a carbon copy model pulled from Ark Survival Evolved. It's like they took the 3D image of dinosaur from Ark Survival Evolved and blew it up and put it in this movie. The Giga, it's the same way. You know, it just a lot of things just didn't make a lot of sense. Now, now to talk about the things that I liked. I liked seeing some more dinosaurs, and we had the Atrociraptors. They looked really, really cool. Really stupid um how they were I mean, like, so at some points they were able to continue tracing and following them based off of the light, even though they were nowhere around, nowhere in sight of the light when she shined it at the back of Owen's shirt when he was riding off on the motorcycle. They were hunting down somebody else. She pushes the button inside of a building upstairs, and the raptor comes out of nowhere and enters the building. Like, how? Where did it come from? How did it get in the building? How did it open the doors and go upstairs to the exact apartment building? It's that, didn't make any sense, but it was a cool scene. It was pretty fun to watch. The most entertaining part of the movie by far was what was going on in the Middle East when they were, chasing the raptors, the underground trade market, where you had the Condors, the Allosauruses, the Suchomimus, which was hilariously, the Baryonyx was hilariously undersized. I guess you can say it was a juvenile, but yet still somehow had a mouth long enough to uh, bite off half the body of a fully grown adult male. Suchomimus's Baryonyx's skull was nowhere near that length, um, and nowhere near had the biting force to do that, especially not one that size. Uh, the Lystrosaurus biting on the hand of one of these guys. Lystrosaurus is a herbivore. There was no reason for it to bite and pull on this guy's shirt at all. Carnotaurus, the baby Carnotaurus had the other one. The Carnotaur uh, was oversized in this movie, as it often is oversized. Um, but overall, it's a pretty fun scenes in the underground. Really fun stuff. To see Barry be in there, really good, but he was grossly underused, and so it was almost like you didn't need him to be in the movie because you know they said that Owen and them weren't going to do anything, and that Owen and them weren't supposed to communicate with them. They weren't supposed to say anything on the radios. Yet, as soon as stuff goes off, Owen and them, Owen's it's the only one doing anything. All the other guys die except for Barry, and Owen and Claire are running around with the communications like they're the actual CIA. But yet, none of that information gets relayed back to the CIA in the states. So nothing really happens there. Um, the island, the Biosyn Island, the sanctuary. I liked it. I think one of the biggest problems as far as the island is and really one of the biggest problems with the dinosaurs in general in this movie was the bloom of the CGI they decided to use. I don't understand movies today where color is seen as a bad thing. Everything had to be so grayed and so blurred, so hard to see, so dark. It was so hard to make out any detail in anything. It all looked like mud because of the CGI and the balloon that they decided to use. It all looked fake. They looked like toys. There was no color. There's no sense of realism from the CGI, and that took away sorely from the movie for me. Because even though Jurassic Park 2, the majority of it happens at night, there was still color. We were still able to see. Jurassic Park 3, a lot of the movie took place at nighttime, but most of it took place during the daytime. But a lot of the movie took place at night with the Spinosaurus attack. You could still see, you could still make out detail and color. In this movie, you could make out any color, and the CGI was so noticeable. And it was horrible CGI, very bad CGI. Some people were praising the CGI. I think it was the worst CGI in the series by far. And I don't understand the idea of the jagged teeth that they keep giving these dinosaurs that makes them look so unreal. They gave it to the Indoraptor, they gave it to the Indominus Rex. Like why are you giving these dinosaurs anatomically incorrect features to make them look less real than the CGI already makes them look? And I was supposed to be talking about the positives, but honestly, the most positive things that I can say about the movie is that it's a blast to watch. It's really fun. I enjoyed watching it. I love the references to the first movie. Um, I love the references to the second and third movie because we talk about Isla Sorna and stuff. But then you leave out the Spinosaurus. You talk about Isla Sorna. You got the T Rex family from Isla Sorna, but you didn't get the Spino. Somehow you got the Barbasol can from Isla Nublar, that Dennis Nedry had, and you're able to get the DNA samples out of it, which make no sense how the DNA samples didn't degrade uh, after not being properly stationed. So the way they got the method out of DNA was from the Barbasol can. If you don't understand how that happened, it's you take a look at when Nedry's pulling the vials in the first movie, you'll clearly see Dimetrodon, one of the species of dinosaurs that was on Isla Nublar back in Jurassic Park. And uh, that's one of the things that he put inside the Barbasol can. But the Barbasol can has been on Isla Nublar for 30 years and has, still has dry mud on it. So the samples are no good. They're spoiled. Unless you're going to tell me that the Barbasol can uh, at such good freezing ability. And so, I like the movie, but it's just a movie for people who want to have fun. It's not a movie for people who are actually fans of the series. It's not a movie for people who are fans of the science. The thing that made Jurassic Park work was that it was a movie about scientists talking about animals that shouldn't exist, and then they get tossed into a scenario where the worst possible scenario happens, and now they're faced off seeing well, at first was wondrous to them. Now they come to terms of reality of why this was so dangerous and why genetic power is such a horrible idea, and bringing back dinosaurs is such a horrible idea. We get that. We get that. All that's what made Jurassic Park work, was the idea of scientists coming together and having this conversation. It doesn't work here because there's none of that, and so there's no real reason to have the scientists in the movie. There's no real reason for Ellie, uh for Alan, for Ian Malcolm to be in the movie, because this movie is clearly not about the scientists. And so I guess it's better than Jurassic Park 3 only because it's longer, it's more enjoyable. Uh, I won't say it's more enjoyable, but it's more of a blast to watch. It's got more dinosaurs that we've not seen before. It gives a little spotlight on some other dinosaurs and stuff like that. Jurassic Park 3 is better in plot and in execution. It's just too short to get higher. You know what? I might change my placement. Uh, I'll make Jurassic Park number four. Jurassic Park 3 number four. This is number five. So so my ranking right now is Jurassic Park. It's the number one. Obviously, it's 10 out of 10. Jurassic Park 2 to me is a 10 out of 10. I love Jurassic Park 2. Jurassic World comes in about 8 or 9. Jurassic Park 3, I'm gonna bump that one up to a 6. And I'm gonna bump Jurassic World Dominion down to a 5. And then Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is a 2. So that's my ranking of the movies. That's my ranking of everything. Um, one other thing, people ask me all the time, uh, Giganotosaurus versus uh T Rex, who wins? It's a T Rex without a doubt. Giganotosaurus. Uh, the moment that that the T-Rex bites it on the neck, that's the end of the fight. T-Rex's bite force and Giganotosaurus's more brittle stature in comparison to Tyrannosaurus Rex means that one bite to a crucial area and it's over. Giganotosaurus did not have enough bite force to do any real significant damage to a Tyrannosaurus Rex. The T-Rex might die after the encounter due to blood loss because of the slashing teeth of Giganotosaurus, because the Giganotosaurus is a Carcharodontosaurid, meaning it is a shark-toothed dinosaur. Tyrannosaurus Rex, on the other hand, its teeth were, take this knife, it had the serrations of a knife. This is not, not a serrated knife, but it had the serrations of a knife around the bone. It's thick, really thick teeth, and it's dagger-like. Tyrannosaurus Rex's tooth could do everything. It could crush bone, it could slice, it could tear. So with one bite, regardless of whether it was a fatal bite or not, it would do significantly more damage to Giganotosaurus than Giganotosaurus would do to T-Rex. And Tyrannosaurus Rex is significantly heavier than a Giganotosaurus. So there's no way that a Giganotosaurus would ever be able to push a Tyrannosaurus Rex around. It just would not happen. Now, the two animals lived in different time periods, so they would not have met. However, if they had, the T-Rex would win, without doubt. But with that, I think I'm going to bring this to an end. This is fun. I like to talk about things like this because this is my favorite topic. But that I just wanted to go ahead and give my review and be done with it. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you all the next time.